Yaxhá. One of the few Mayan cities that maintains its original Mayan name, Yak meaning blue-green and Ha meaning water. And Yaxha is a perfect name for this place that is snuggled between the lagoons of Yaxha and Saknab. But before I get into the visit to this wonderful Mayan city, I need to remind you that this is Latina Literati. And if you enjoy wonderful places, great books, interesting people from past and present, then this is the channel for you. The waterways all around this city make it a perfect place for being a ceremonial center and a center of political activity during the height of the Mayan civilization. Just to give you a sense of the timeline, the city is thought to have first constructed the first buildings in 500 BC. And for the next 1,000 years, this city was a center of ceremony and a center of political activity throughout the Mayan world. And Guatemala and Petén especially are what are called the heart of the Mayan world, el corazón del mundo maya. And Yaxha is an easy place to visit. It's very well maintained, the roads are really smooth, and you can probably see it with a guide in 3 to 4 hours. My recommendation is a whole day, but it's just beautiful. We were there on a very cool, fresh day where the howler monkeys and the spider monkeys were dancing in the trees. We saw a lot of beautiful birds and, of course, the guajolote petenero, which is the turkey of the area. It's actually a blue turkey. There are about 14 structures that you can visit, but there are hundreds more under the mounds that you see all around you that are covered, obviously, with vegetation. In Yaxha, you'll get a clear feeling of living spaces. It's very clear where the elite lived and where those who did not belong to the elite lived.
En los 3 kilómetros cuadrados que tiene esta ciudad solo vivía la familia de la realeza o la clase alta, mientras que a la periferia vivía la clase baja, y siempre brindando tributo a la nobleza. O sea que desde aquel entonces ya vienen las clases sociales.
The city is very well laid out. The plazas, you see where the ceremonial centers are, you see where the observatory and the astrological centers are, and of course you see where the administrative offices or area would have been. So it's really laid out in a very linear fashion, and it's always going to be related to the sun, because the sun was central and is central to the Mayan cosmology. So even as you just walk in, the first structure that you see to your right was used to mark the winter solstice and the summer solstice. And so as you stand there on those days, the sun literally peers in and marks these special dates on the solar calendar for the people of Yaxha. Just amazing, amazing, the accuracy, the beauty of so much knowledge in just astronomy and mathematics and architecture, engineering, and you just get the feeling that we are just scratching the surface of what we know. There is so much to know and learn, and at least I got the sense of how much must have been lost when the scrolls were burned from all over the Maya kingdom by the invading Europeans. So it's an amazing place, and to think that for over 1,000 years it was a center of political activity because of the waterways and because of the topographical area in which it is. And when you climb the pyramids, we climbed one of the structures that is called structure 216, and I'm going to say it's, I don't know, I didn't count the steps, but I want to say it's maybe 80 900, I don't know. But you climb all the way up and it's a spectacular view. You see a view of the lagoon and you see a view of the protected jungle. And to the left, you see the demarcation line of the protected area and then the pastoral areas immediately there, showing that people are already right at that line, using it as pastures and for agricultural activities. So you see it, it's real when you see it there from so high above. But the waters are spectacular and the sunset at the height of 216 is kind of one of those things that everybody needs to do in Yaxhá. Really recommend a visit. There's a temple called Two Red Hand Temple, and it is because there was a burial site found there. Normally, you don't find burial sites at temples, but above the burial site, there were two red hands. And so that temple I thought was unique and quite interesting. Yaxhá is a magical place. It's a wonderful place to visit. There is so much to see and so many things to learn. And again, you just really get the sense that we're just scratching the surface. So this video is actually a first of a series of videos that I'm going to be making on places that we have visited. We had the privilege to visit several Mayan sites and we wanted to share that with you.
Este es el glifo emblema de Aguateca, el glifo emblema de la ciudad, ¿verdad? Entonces, este tenía que ser el rey de Aguateca.
Now on to my favorite part of the video, book recommendations. I want to start with just a couple of general books. Some of these books you'll think, wow, they're several years old, but you have to remember that the study of Maya glyphs as a modern science is, maybe, I don't know, not even 100 years old. So every few years there are breakthroughs which completely change the assumptions and the knowledge upon which those assumptions were made. So I thought it might be interesting to start with some of the basic classics, and then as we go through the videos, I will recommend books that are more particular to the specific things that we're talking about in that video. So the first book is called The Maya, and it just generally talks about what we know about the civilization, and I think it's a good kind of starting point if it's something that is of interest to you. And as always, we want you to check your libraries for these books. We want to support the great institution of our community libraries. Also, our local booksellers. They are the backbone of our community and we need to support them. So if you're interested in any of these books, check with them first. And if perchance they're not available to you, we always link the books on independent booksellers in the description box below, if you choose to purchase them. So the second book is called A Forest of Kings. And this is really interesting because there is a place in Copan where you have stelae. I want to say there were like 14 stelae, maybe 10, that represented different kings. And that's called the Forest of Stone. So I think that's where the concept came from, to name this a Forest of Kings, because kings are normally set out in stelae depicting their military prowess, usually with a cowering captive at their feet. And they're usually made much larger than life. So a Forest of Kings documents the 2,000 years of the pre-classic, classic, and post-classic Mayan rulers that we know of. So again, this changes all the time with new discoveries, but I think that's a solid way if you're interested in who was in charge during the 2,000 years that we know of Mayan civilization during the epoch or height of that time. This is a good book to do that. And the last book is just a mystery. It's a book that will grab you and won't let you go. And it's called Breaking the Maya Code by Michael Coe. And this late professor doesn't pull any punches. He's very straightforward and kind of gives you the backdrop. I mean, here we're talking about the height of the Cold War. We're talking about a Russian scholar who has never never traveled, has never been to the Mayan cities. And he's the one who comes up with the breakthrough that allows all the other scholars around the world to start thinking about what are the commonalities in the glyphs and what can we glean from that in terms of the Mayan glyphs. Amazing, amazing story. It gives you faith in humanity that someone who has never seen what they're studying can distill, which then allows other scholars to build on that and eventually read the glyphs, which have taught us so much about what was going on during the Mayan civilizations and what was going on in their cities, obviously. So again, I invite you to subscribe to Latina Literati. This is a joint journey. I would love to hear from you what you'd like us to talk about. And as always, we wish you mucho cariño, mucho salud y mucho amor. Gracias.